Welcome to this presentation, which is going to focus exclusively on the key payroll processes in Interact. Interact HRMS has a very strong global enterprise payroll solution, which consists of a single engine that has 4 different processes. The first one is the normal payroll cycle, which is the pay run that you do for every single employee every pay period. The second one is the off-cycle payroll, which is going to be when you're dealing with exceptions that need to be processed outside of the normal pay cycle. And the third one is the retroactive payroll. Retroactive payroll will allow you to manage the calculations that are required if you're making adjustments and changes to any payroll component that are effective in the past. For the period between the effective date of that change and the current pay period, the system will calculate the impact and include that in the current payroll by processing a retroactive payroll process. And finally, you have the end of service payroll, which is the process you run when an employee is leaving the company and needs to be paid some additional elements and benefits and have some unique calculations. So what we're going to do here is we're going to follow a script, and we're going to run this over a 4-month period. In fact, it is going to be a monthly payroll, this example, and we will be using a number of things. First of all, we're going to make a contract amendment or an HR action that will mean a retroactive change to a payroll policy effective April 1st. And even though we're going to be running the June payroll, so you can understand that that will require some unique processing. We're also going to make a salary advance for an employee. We're going to process a loan request for that employee, and we're going to enter a garnishment order. Then we're going to run the normal pay cycle and see how these 4 items have been handled. Once we've done that, we're going to move into the month of July. We're going to import exceptions in the month of July and run a normal pay cycle and see how those exceptions are processed and how the changes and the processes that will run in June, how they're going to affect July. Then we're going to move into August, during which we'll keep it simple. We'll just put in a leave request and see the impact of a leave request on the normal pay cycle. And finally, we move into September, where we're going to terminate somebody and then see what that does to their payroll. So that's relatively simple, but there's quite a lot of things that will be happening. So pay close attention and you'll see how sophisticated and how seamlessly integrated all these processes are in Interact HRMS. We won't show you straight away where the setup is coming from. That's going to be in a separate presentations. That's going to be in a separate presentation, so you can see how all these things tie together. So let's get this started. And as I explained, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a contract amendment. So that's an activity. I'm using my menu search or my task search here, and we will proceed with entering a new contract amendment. This could also be done as an HR action. It kind of depends on how you want to work in our system. There are always multiple ways of doing things, but we'll start with this contract amendment. It will be done for Lisa Miller, employee 587. And the reason is we're going to give her a job promotion. Let's say the original request, in fact, was June 1st. Note this is an international date format that we're using right now. It'll be a change in her job position setup. And the effective date for this change will also be April 1st. In fact, I'm going to change this also to April 1st. Let's say it just took a long time before we got to it. And let's take a look. And the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to increase her salary. I'm going to make it step 10. She's making $3,200 right now, and I'm going to give her $3,900 as her new salary. And the system has calculated the annual salary that results from that, and I'm going to add this contract amendment. See, the only thing I'm changing, I could have gone in and changed many other things. I could have added, removed allowances, earnings, bonuses, modified them, increased them, decreased them, and done whatever I wanted to do. In my case, all I did is I went and modified the salary with an effective date of 1st of April 2016. And now I'm adding this contract amendment. That means I need to press the add button here. Normally this goes for an approval process. I will make it easy on myself, and I have full authority here to approve things on the fly. That's what I'm going to do. It shows you that I'm doing the approval now, and it's no longer pending, it's now approved. So let's keep this in mind that I went and did a contract amendment. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to process an off-cycle payroll. I'm going to give her an advance, and therefore I will do an off-cycle payroll. Let's say we are at the beginning of June right now. And we would like to not wait. Our employee wants to buy a house and she can't wait till the end of the month to get her salary for this. So she has requested a loan and she's requested an advance in her salary. The loan you will see in a minute. For now, I'm going to just show you the off-cycle payroll process. And I'm going to go and choose advance salary as the off-cycle payroll process that I want to do. The posting period is going to be in the month of June. It is going to be processed, as I said, in June, and because that's my current pay period, and we're going to pay that out of a HSBC bank account. I can put in an approval reference here. So let's get this started. I'm generating the off-cycle payroll transaction. Now I have actually gone and defined in my setup for off-cycle payroll, there is a transaction defined as an advanced salary transaction, which is directly related to the settings that you see here now, where my system says, well, what is it that you want to do? You want to give a salary advance, then go ahead and generate that. And let's think for a moment. She was making $3,200. We want to give her a salary advance of $4,000. So it's more than even her current month payroll. And I don't really need to track her activity or other details. We're going to skip some of this. I'm just going to go and calculate this. And you notice here it's showing me $4,000 is what she will be paid in her salary advance. And now I'm going to have the system allow me to define what needs to happen. How are we going to deal with this? Of course, first of all, she's going to get paid this amount. This will be paid as a cash amount or a transfer into her account. But secondly, there will be a deduction that's going to happen in the normal pay cycle as a result of this. Okay, now either we can have a one-time deduction of $4,000 straight away, but she in fact doesn't even have that, and that's not what she's looking for. She would like to have basically a type of a loan already in this case. So she wants to have a recurrent deduction and pay this as a percentage instead of a flat deduction. I want to have a payment done that will be done automatically deducted, and the deduction can start straight away in the month of June. Okay, and we would like to deduct 25% as on a monthly basis, because we have a monthly payroll for this particular employee. Now you see that the system has gone and calculated. That means for June there will be $1,000. For July and August and September, each one of those will be $1,000. I could have also said that I wanted it to be done as 20%. And then you notice that the system is going to take only $800 for each pay period for the next 5 pay periods. But we'll go back to our 25%. And so I haven't done any data entry except for saying that I want this to be a recurring deduction. It'll be deducted as a percentage. The system has populated the $4,000 here automatically and has determined how this is going to be handled. Okay, so if I'm okay with this, I'm going to just go ahead and commit this. And after committing this, we are done. So that's all there is to it. So what we've done now is we have done a retroactive change, a salary change effective in April, and we have done a salary advance. Now I want to do something else. I want to go in here and have Lisa Miller request a loan. Remember, she's trying to get this house and she doesn't have enough money for it. So we have a policy in this company that allows our employees to request loans. The loan that she wants to do, in my case, is in fact an education loan. So this will also be used to pay tuition for a course that she wants to take. So right here, she's entitled to an education loan. And we are still in June, so I'm going to request it as of June 1st. I'm going to request an amount of $10,000. And I would like to pay that over 5 months. I would like to pay that over 12 months. That means $850 per month because there's a 2% interest rate that's been set up for this education loan. The loan date will be June 1st. The first payment date for this loan will be July 1st. Okay, or the month of July at least, because we only run the payroll at the end of July. Now, the loan will be dispersed to her as a cash payment, and I'm going to ignore all these other items for now. So you notice that I'm logged in. I didn't point this out enough. I'm logged in as the employee, Lisa Miller. She's the one requesting this loan. So she has put in a loan request. Okay. Now, this loan request, depending on your workflow, will be sent to the appropriate person to approve. There could be a supervisor, a department head, somebody in finance, somebody in HR, whatever your policies are. The right people will need to approve this loan request. So Barbara is a supervisor for Lisa, and she will find right here that there's a loan request from Lisa for $10,000 starting on the 1st of June. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and recommend that. So now the loan has been approved and recommended by Barbara. Now there's one more thing I want to do here. I will, as an HR administrator, I received a letter today from the court which tells us that we need to garnish some of her wages. There seems to be all kinds of things going on with our employee. So I'm going to enter a garnishment order. We'll enter a new garnishment order right here. And this will be for our friend Lisa Miller. And it relates to unpaid federal taxes. Okay, so this is a federal court. And the order date that we got this, actually, let's say it shows May 10th. But, and it all goes back to May 10th. But this becomes effective only as of June 1st. And the total garnishment amount is $1,500. And it should be paid as $300 per pay period. Now, keep in mind that the system can do this for me. In fact, we'll make it 500. This can, of course, this is going to be subject to the state rules and state laws and federal laws that relate to garnishment of wages. So there's going to be other rules that the system will take into account in terms of maximum amount that you can garnish, etc. So in my case, I'm actually only going to do 3 months worth of garnishment, so June, July, and August, and therefore end of August this will end, and it will be paid to the IRS, whatever it is that we collect. I'm going to add this garnishment order, and that's now been entered, and I will also approve it. Again, I'm skipping some steps here in order to speed things up. So you notice now that it's approved. So what have we done now? We have made a change to the salary. We have entered an off-cycle payroll advance, a salary advance. We have entered a loan request, and we have entered a garnishment for our employee. So there's quite a lot of things that have happened already. Now, the next step is we're going to get our payroll started. So first of all, remember that we did a retroactive change. So I need to do some preparation for this now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the changes in our system which date back from April until now, because I don't want to have to go and search for which particular people had any change in their payroll. But you notice here that there is one employee under retroactive employee list that has a change related to their to the period that starts in April. So we're going to make that change effective now in the retro batch process, and then we're going to proceed with our normal pay cycle. Let's go to the normal pay cycle now, which means we're going to initialize our payroll for the month of June, which is the pay period that we're working with. And you notice that under the initialization process, my system is noting that there is a deduction that has been introduced into the payroll of this employee, and we know that there's many more things that have happened. The next step is the automatic timesheet. So we're going to generate the automatic timesheet now for these employees. And this automatic timesheet will give me the exact numbers that we are expecting for Lisa Miller. Now let's take a look if and see if the changes that we had entered have been taken care of so far. First of all, you will notice that her salary is now $3,900 instead of $3,200. Secondly, when we look at the deductions, you will find that there is a advanced salary deduction of $1,000 that's being deducted, and there is a garnishment of $500 that's being deducted. There's also an education loan which is not showing here yet. You will see that kick in. The reason why it's not showing is because, as you may remember, we set it up to have a first installment payment only in the next month, in the month of July. Now we're looking at Lisa, and you notice that there's $3,900 being paid, but you may have noticed that we're missing something still, which is the new salary change that affected the previous pay period. So this is only the current salary. That's correct. The new salary is here, but there is a retroactive salary adjustment. Now the reason that's not here is because we need to process one more thing, and that is the retroactive pre-processing for NPC. And what's going to happen now is my system is going to pick all the employees who have a retroactive adjustment that is affecting the current pay period. And you notice that Lisa is one of them. So I don't have to go and find it for the system. The system knows. I just need to run this process. And once this is done, I can go and take a look at Lisa's payroll for the month of June. And you will find now the system has added 2 months of the $700 difference that I gave. I gave her a $700 increase. And that increase for the month of April and May has been added automatically for me as $1,400. The remainder is just a new salary and of course the deductions that we talked about earlier. Okay, I'm not going to go into the other tabs here. These are all very important but not relevant to the part that we're demonstrating today. So we have done the parts and the steps that we wanted to do in June. Now what I want to do real quick is run the trial payroll and the final payroll and move on to the next pay period. So that means we're going to choose the Millers again for admin staff for trial payroll, because once you've run your automatic timesheet you can proceed with your trial payroll. That's not going to give me anything different from what I had already, except if I'm doing complex taxes, which need to be done in 2 steps. I'm okay with this. I don't want to focus on the differences. I'm going to take a quick look here and see what the trial payroll looks like. I would of course go and run lots of reports now. Normally I have many audit reports and reconciliation reports and so on. In my case, we will keep it simple. I just want to point out that this person got the $3,900 basic salary. She got her garnishments deducted. She got her advanced salary deduction, and we also have the retroactive salary adjustment, which has been added automatically for the employee. Okay, so we're good with that. And that means we're going to move into the final payroll now. To do final payroll, you must always confirm that you have seen and understood the variances that are apparent here. Because if there are large variances in your payroll, usually something is up. That's why you can set up a threshold for that so you can monitor that easily. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run this for the admin staff for this employee group. And we're only going to run it for the Millers, so we will be done very quickly. Okay, the job is done. Normally what we would do now, but I'm going to skip those steps, is we would run the we would produce the paychecks, and we would go and produce the bank deposit file or paychecks. We would produce the GL transactions also, but we don't want to spend time on that right now. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go and change my pay period. I'm going to go now and open the next pay period, which is the month of July. I can do this either for my employee group alone, or I can do it for the entire company. In my particular case, I will just do it for the entire company, assuming that everybody is on the same type of pay cycle and the same type of pay period. So we will open the employee group right here for the month of July. And once this is done, now that this is done, we can go and start the July process. Now, if you remember my presentation, in the month of June we've done the contract amendment, we've done a salary advance, we have done a loan request, a garnishment order, we've run the normal pay cycle. In the month of July, we want to import some exceptions. We want to run the normal payroll cycle also and see what else happened here. So this will be relatively simple. So what are we going to do now is we're going to straight away move on to July. Initialize the payroll for July. You will find that again Lisa Miller is showing as having a new deduction, and you will find in a minute what that deduction is that we have that the system has automatically introduced for you. We're going to run the automatic timesheet for the Millers. So let's take a look here. And then we're going to import a batch of exceptions. You will notice again she's getting her 3,900. She is not getting the retroactive salary adjustment anymore. That was only paid one time, obviously. Under the deductions, there are now three new deductions. One is the garnishments. We are aware of that already. The other one is the advanced salary deduction that we also agreed to. And now the third one is the education loan that's being deducted. Remember, there was a loan that she took and that was approved. So all that is fine. However, we're not done with our story. For this pay period, what we want to do is import a batch of exceptions. So I'm going to go in here and create a new batch. And this will be a batch, let's say that we are in July. So this is a July first batch of July exceptions for admin staff. And we are importing that today. Who is importing that? All of these things, of course, can be populated by the system depending on who's logged into the system right now. But I'm making this even more flexible so I can have the system track this separately. Now we're going to choose our batch. Okay, so here is the batch that we want to use. Let me show you real quick what that looks like. This is the batch. Here is the employee code for Lisa Miller. There's another employee that we're also importing. And here you notice the definition codes of the policies and the amounts that we're importing. We took some very unique amounts so you can easily recognize them as soon as we do this. Okay, so I've selected the file. It's a CSV file. All I need to do now is to import the file. It tells me 11 records are imported successfully. One record is rejected. So let's take a look at what happened with that rejected record. If you were paying close attention, you may have noticed. Well, it's line number 1. There is a definition there for a policy that's na. Obviously, that's no good, and that is the reason why it was rejected. Such a policy does not exist in our system, so the system threw it out. Okay? Now, other than that, all the other policies have been imported for Jane, for Michelle, and for Lisa. All the other exceptions, I mean. And there's a reference here why these exceptions are being imported. And I'm going to proceed and approve this. You notice that the system in the file that I imported, it determined the dollar amount or the currency, and it also determined that it is for the July pay period. If you wanted to, you could have imported an activity code here also. That would have allowed me to cost this at the activity level and tell me that this particular exception is linked to a specific activity for which we will need to know the cost later on. So now this batch has been posted to the ATS. If I go and look at my automatic timesheet one more time, so we'll take a look at the automatic timesheet now and see what things look like after we imported those exceptions. We will find that the retroactive adjustment, of course, is no longer there. The new salary is now applied as required. In terms of allowances, these are the exceptions that we imported. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Number 1 is not there because, remember, we used the wrong code. And in terms of deductions, the system is continuing the garnishment, the advanced salary deduction, and the education loan. So that's all good. That means we are now ready to proceed with the trial payroll for this particular employee. And we will quickly do that. And show you the results also. System is showing me that there's still a large number of variances, which is not a surprise because we've been doing crazy things here. And you can see the same numbers that I just showed you earlier. So that means I'm going to proceed with the final payroll, and I'm not going to run through the standard other steps, which is the GL processing and the trial bank deposit file. I will just proceed straight away to my final payroll because we have 2 more months to go after this. And we will run the final payroll for the Millers. And generate this. And that's done. And you will see the same amounts that I just showed you. I will open it up real quick so you see one. This is basically a payslip preview already. And as you can tell, by the way, that this is a multi-currency payslip, so you could have on the left hand the source currency, on the right hand the functional currency. And the labor distribution is going straight to the single department that she's assigned to, which is the finance department. Now, we are ready. We finished our final payroll for this particular pay period. And I'm going to open up the month of August. We're going to run another pay run in August, and we're going to do a quick leave request also in that month. And I'll point out a few more things that happen. You notice that while I'm doing a lot of talking here, there's not a whole lot of things that I'm actually entering. Just now we handled all these exceptions with a single import and a single screen almost. So keep following me. We're going to open the August pay period for all of our employees. Obviously, that's not necessary. I could do it for just one employee group. But it's the same amount of work in my case, so, and I'm not concerned with the other employees right now. So now that the August pay period is open, we're going to initialize our payroll for August. In fact, before we do that, we're going to straight away do what we are planning for this month, which is to put in a time off or leave request for Lisa Miller. This is Lisa. This is her self-service, and among her requests she can put in a leave request, and this will be a new one. She does not have any leave requests in the system. She's actually a relatively new employee still. She does not have any leave. She's someone who doesn't take much leave. Now she's going to take a day on the 17th, and this will be administrative leave. And she's got 2 days balance that's been accrued so far. Note that we can do leave in days or in hours. She could have put a reason why she's taking this leave. I didn't enter this right now. And the system has set it up now to be under review. It's going to be sent to her supervisor for approval. So we'll do that quickly. And Barbara, the same one who approved the loan earlier, she's now the one that needs to approve this leave request. She's got a leave request for the 17th, returning on the 18th from Lisa, administrative leave. The reason would have been listed here. If there was a document required, that would have been sent attached there too. There's just 1 day requested. I'm okay with this. My system, in fact, is allowing for me to control this up front, because it will not allow people to request things that they're not entitled to. So there's not much to worry about when you're approving, really. Now that's been approved. That means I can proceed straight away now and process the payroll. So if we're doing this for what that means is we're going to now go initialize the payroll for August for this particular employee group. And you notice that there's a leave request showing. Earlier it was a deduction that was listed in the payroll initialization. Now it is a leave request that is showing there. Second step is I'm going to run the automatic timesheet. So let's take a look at the results. If we generate our automatic timesheet, then we will find that her basic salary is no longer the $3,900 that she gets paid normally. It's been reduced. The reason for that is the work hours have been reduced because there were unpaid leave hours of 8 hours in this pay period. As you remember, she requested leave. It was approved. In addition to that, the allowances, which we had imported as an exception in the last pay period, those exceptions are gone. They are exceptions. By definition, they should not be repeated. Otherwise, you should have gone and changed them in the employee profile in the compensation plan. So the allowances have gone back to their normal numbers, but the amounts are not flat rates or round numbers, as you can tell. The reason is they've been reduced also because of the leave request that's been processed, because these particular allowances are tied to the time or hours that you work based on our definitions. And finally, our deductions are still there, the same ones that we had before: garnishment, salary deduction, education loan. Those amounts are unchanged. They are continuously included by the payroll. So we're going to go ahead and finish this process now. Run the trial payroll. And then we can move on to the final month after that. We will generate it for both employees. We're only looking at one of them really at this time. Remember, the system gives us a variance report to inform us of any major changes. I can view my trial payroll now. And as always, I would normally proceed now with running the pay register, running my reports, processing a GL trial file, and processing a direct bank deposit file in the trial mode. But we won't be doing that. We're going to proceed straight away and finish off things with the final payroll. Before I can do final payroll, I do need to enter a password, because anything that's done final is by definition final. I'm going to generate this. So the final payroll has been run. Now we move on to the last step of this demo, which is the September month, in which we're terminating the employee and requesting the end of service calculation. I will not do the whole process, but I will show you the steps in it. And then before I can do that, I need to open up my September payroll, which is what we're going to do right now. So each time, obviously you will not be doing this for one employee at a time. Normally you will be running the entire payroll for your company before you move on to the next pay period. We're just doing this in a demonstration environment that makes it look a little unique. So in September, we're going to terminate our employee. Can always be so we go with the employee termination. You can either terminate a contract if you have employments that are under contract with you, that are have employment agreements in place with you, or you can terminate the employee, him or herself, in which case all jobs and anything that that employee was doing for you is automatically terminated. So we're going to go and look at Lisa Miller here. And the request date for the termination, we might do that very simple. There will be a vacation payout, yes. Eligible for rehire, yes. The reason for termination, let's say she resigned and the resignation date was today. Actual termination date, let's say there was no notice period. She wants to leave immediately because of an emergency, and I do not want to inactivate payroll straight away. There could be a document that I'm going to include here that includes the resignation letter and so on. And there are additional termination actions, notifications that may need to go out, and another quality assurance that needs to happen before we do this. But in my case, I'm going to just proceed quickly. So we're adding the termination request. Usually this goes for a number of approvals. It's showing in progress right now. And now you're seeing that she has been terminated. Now what does that mean? It means that now we can do an end of service settlement request. And we'll do that for the same employee. Again, obviously the system will only give me those employees who have a termination that I can choose from, really. And the system is going to check for me when was the first day of employment, what are the rules, how much as leave and time off has she accrued, how much do we need to pay her until the date that she's been terminated. We need to pay her 12 more days. And what are the benefits? Is there any rule if there's some specific gratuity that we are calculating that we want to pay her? So we're going to do that right here. I'm going to add the termination or the settlement request for her end of service. And so two things need to happen now. The system needs to calculate your normal pay, because you still need to get paid for the 2 weeks that you worked. And secondly, it needs to take care of the usual deductions and anything else that is going on. And on top of that, it needs to add in the end of service benefit that this employee is entitled to. And there is a lot of time off that she did not use, which she needs to get paid for. So first of all, her salary is a lot less this month. Secondly, the allowances are the standard allowances that you've seen before. You see now they're round numbers again. And because the policy says that if in the last month you will get the full amount in this case. In addition to that, when we look at our deductions, you will now find that the garnishment deduction is no longer there. And you will remember that the garnishment was $1,500 and there were 3 deductions of $500 made only for that. And that's the reason why there's no more need, because it was deducted in June, July, and August. Now we're in September. So the system is taking care of this for me. There is still the deduction, and there is an education loan, and my system in fact is telling me there is still a balance of $8,500 on that education loan. So that needs to be handled too. And that's why, in fact, at this point you are dealing with a net settlement that is negative. This person still owes you money because of the loan that she took. Now, I won't get into further detail on this, but normally you will produce a format now, you will go through an exit process, you have an offboarding solution in our system to have her hand in all the assets that she has that belong to the company and much more. But from a financial perspective, the system now is telling you what you need to know so that you can handle this. If you want to modify any of this, you might say, well, in fact, we do want to change the allowances and make them adjust them for the pay period. So I will go and modify my payroll details as I require. So now I have the ability to take the calculated amounts that the system has calculated for me for this final pay period and modify anything that I want to modify. Right here I can make my changes as I see fit. Okay, so now you've seen the 4 pay cycles all integrated as one single solution. And just to recap, what we did is we ran the June payroll, during which prior to that we had a salary change done retroactively. We had a salary advance for which you've seen the ongoing deductions happening afterwards. You had a loan request for which the loan installment kicked in as of July. You had a garnishment for which 3 months worth of garnishments have been processed. And then in July we imported the exceptions, which were one time only. They were automatically removed afterwards, or we reinstated the old allowances afterwards automatically. In August we processed the leave request, which affected our payroll and our allowances. In September we did a termination of this employee. So in those 4 pay cycles, all I did is enter the transactions really as an HR officer. In some cases not even HR or payroll were involved. It was a loan request issued by an employee, approved by a supervisor, and as per the policies that have been set up, everything was done for me automatically after that. The same thing would apply when you look at the GL transactions, all that stuff, all the GL entries that result from all of these things. They are also automated, provided that the setup has been done correctly from the start. Okay, so we've covered these 4 cycles, and you notice in fact there is only one Interact payroll. We ran it all in one single process. We ran a normal pay cycle every month, and it picked up things that happened in off cycle, it picked up things that happened in retro, and in the end it also has the end of service calculations included in it. Hopefully this gives you a good sense of the power of the product, and obviously these are just simple examples we're given. It can go far more sophisticated than this, and we are only dealing with one employee. You could have a huge volume of employees. There's no limit to how we can handle that in this system. And that's really the power of the product, because there's no limit to how many people can be involved in processing these transactions. And so the volume is never an issue. We have many tools to handle bulk transactions. We did that when we imported some exceptions, but it could have been done for anything else in the system. We didn't touch on timesheets or many other things, but that'll be done in next presentations. Thank you for your time.